Good afternoon. Thanks for stopping by Garden State Weather and gardenstateweather.blogspot.com, your source for weather information for the northern mid-Atlantic region 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is a special afternoon forecast discussion, video forecast discussion for the impacts of a coastal storm, a winter storm, on Thursday into early Friday for the northern mid-Atlantic region. And this is the forecast discussion prepared on Monday afternoon, December 30th, 2013. Latest surface analysis from weatherroanoke.com and digital atmosphere software shows the Arctic front has now passed through the New Jersey, New York City, Philadelphia metropolitan area. It's almost completely through the northern Delmarva region as well. And as a result, winds are out of the northwest now, and they're increasing with gusts over 20 miles per hour as the air temperatures are beginning to fall off steadily. Also to note is the moisture that's developing here in the Gulf Coast states. There is not a mechanism yet to bring this up along the eastern seaboard, but there will be later on Wednesday and Wednesday night. And by the time we get to Thursday, we could have a pretty formidable storm here off the Delmarva coast. And there is a chance that this could become a significant winter storm for the New Jersey, New York City, Philadelphia metropolitan area. Meanwhile, we have a clipper system in the northern stream across the upper Midwest, which will gradually race eastward. This will probably die out and not produce too much in the way of winter weather for the next 24 to 36 hours. You can see this afternoon that the temperatures are still hovering above freezing in New York City and out on eastern Long Island, and also from Philadelphia and south, where the cold front has made its way through, but temperatures to the north and west over Wilkes-Barre and Scranton and points to the north and west are already falling off rapidly into the 20s. And there's an indication on the mesoscale models that temperatures are falling in this region here at about 4 degrees or 5 degrees or so over the past 3 hours. So there's cold air advections in place. The latest visible satellite imagery shows the low-level cloud deck across most of the region for this afternoon as the northwest winds amplify and increase in the cold air advection behind the Arctic front. Latest mesoscale analysis this afternoon from the RAP model shows the temperatures across the New Jersey, New York, Hudson Valley region all the way down to the northern Delmarva down 2 to 4 degrees in the last 3 hours as the northwesterly winds increase. There are some snow plumes coming in from off the Great Lakes here and parts of the Ohio Valley off Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, but most of these are drying under the subsidence and very dry air that's now in place. For the aviational deck this afternoon, we have basically VFR conditions across the entire forecast route. There is a little bit of MVFR up north towards the Poconos and points north and west. Mount Pocono Airport this afternoon already down to 23 degrees, and the dew point is 12, making the relative humidity of 62%. The wind is out of the northwest at 15 gusts to 24 miles an hour. There's some broken ceilings at 2,600 feet. Makes the wind chill feel like 10 degrees already at about 2:30 this afternoon. We're actually close to 3 o'clock this afternoon. Here in the Newark area, it's still 37 degrees and dropping. Temperature dew point 21. The wind is out of the northwest, 17 gusts to 24 miles an hour. There's some broken clouds at about 4,900 feet and broken already at 25,000 feet. So it's basically overcast here. The wind chill at 27. We're going to experience northwest winds gusting over 20 knots with a variable cloud cover, broken ceilings at 5,000 and 25,000 during the next couple of hours, and also into this evening with the winds out of the northwest at about 10 knots late this evening. And then from late tonight into tomorrow morning, scattered clouds at 7,000, broken at 20,000 feet or so. Northwest winds dying down at around 10 knots, becoming variable tomorrow morning just before dawn. And early tomorrow afternoon, the winds out of the west at 12, gusts to 20 knots. Scattered clouds at 4,000, broken at 8,000 feet. Philadelphia this hour has basically overcast conditions at 25,000, broken at 14,000, scattered clouds at 5,500, and a few clouds in the lower deck there at 3,800 feet. Temperature 41, dew point 24, the wind is northwest at 14, visibility 10 miles. And we're going to find some broken ceilings again throughout the rest of the afternoon. And then from late tonight through tomorrow morning, some broken ceilings at 5,000 feet. The winds out of the northwest at about 10 knots late tonight, and then out of the west, southwest at 13 gusts to 22 knots during tomorrow as a short wave races across the region. Latest water vapor imagery this afternoon shows still a plume of moisture here from Texas all the way up into the East Coast and into northern New England, with some enhancement to the clouds across the Virginias, and also a lot of enhancement going now on through the Gulf and on the northwest side here, the bend in southeastern and central Texas. And this is an area that we're going to be watching for cyclogenesis to build across the southeastern states and eventually move up the eastern seaboard by Thursday night, and Friday morning, at least according to the latest guidance that we're looking at now. Some of the model guidance stretches this out with multiple waves across the region, and the European model is having it as a Miller A storm now, as opposed to a Miller B storm. A Miller B storm is where you have low pressure here over the Ohio Valley transferring its energy to the coast and then moving north and east around the benchmark of 40 north and 70 west. The latest European model guidance continues to suggest that there will be less energy here across the Ohio Valley come Wednesday night and Thursday, and much more energy in the southern stream, and it looks pretty evident on water vapor today. Meanwhile, we have enhancement over British Columbia and getting into the northwestern areas of the Pacific Northwest. And this area here is going to be the watchful eye as this disturbance moves south and east under the polar vortex and merges with a zone of moisture here in the Gulf of Mexico along the subtropical jet stream, and then either redevelops the system as a Miller B, or this becomes minored out, and this becomes the main feature, with the coastal low developing according to the European model over the Delmarva region during the day on Thursday night, and early Friday morning as it races off into the northeast Atlantic. It's a better shot to see how the atmosphere is responding. Here's our Clipper storm here moving through the upper Great Lakes. But still, notice this feed of strong subtropical moisture all the way from the Gulf and out into the Pacific, across the Gulf of Mexico and up along the eastern seaboard states. Even though this frontal boundary will be slipping to our south and east, it will become nearly stationary in this area across the southeastern states over the next 24 hours. This wave of low pressure may minor out during tomorrow morning, but it's this energy here entering British Columbia and also the northwestern areas of the Pacific and also northwestern United States that will affect the forecast going forward as a large sprawling area of the polar vortex begins to spin around, drop down towards the northern New England coast states, and then gradually move back into Atlantic Canada over the next 72 to 96 hours. And as that does so, this means implications of phasing, and either this system here becomes weaker as it progresses or translates through the Ohio Valley, and this system and stream becomes stronger, and this becomes the dominant feature here with low pressure developing, and this is a driving mechanism that will bring this disturbance up along the coast, and then a redevelopment somewhere off the Delmarva during Thursday night, and then out to sea on Friday morning. Implications are that this kind of setup here is a dangerous kind of a setup because we could be dealing with snow. The profile of the atmosphere with the Arctic front that just passed through and the temperature profile at all levels of the atmosphere promotes at least a 15-to-1 snow ratio. But then again, that depends on which model solution you're going to use and if the phasing happens in a negative fashion to bring this coastal storm up along the eastern seaboard states. Another thing that has to be monitored is what we call like a banana high. This is a high pressure ridge that is looks in the shape of a banana from southeastern Canada all the way down into the Mississippi and Missouri River Valley. This protects the region from having the storm cut up to the north and west and has the redevelopment along the coast and then further to the north and east. This is providing, in the latest model guidance on the European, a strong example of why we could have a significant snowstorm here during Thursday afternoon right through early Friday morning. This is another true example of how the models are not handling the blocking mechanisms in the upper stratosphere and then down into the troposphere. This is last night's run of the mean 500 millibar heights across the globe. And last night, the European model corrected itself with a lobe of the polar vortex stretching from southeastern Canada into the Great Lakes region. Here on the GFS, which is still pretty clueless, packs more high pressure over the pole and a second high pressure height anomaly off the eastern seaboard with more troughing, and is split in the polar vortex, with the polar vortex up north towards Hudson's Bay, Canada, and bringing down a trough again into the northwest. This is not shown on the European model, as there's more ridging south of the Aleutian Islands and coast of Alaska, and down into the northwestern Pacific into northwestern United States. The CMC Canadian model shows the same kind of thing, a lot more ridging here across the portions of the Aleutian Islands and Alaska down through the northwest, and focuses the ridge axis further to the east off the Canadian Maritimes, with still a dipole here of lower heights from just southeast of the pole into Hudson's Bay, Canada, and into the northeastern United States, with the center max at around the Great Lakes. Now, that was last night. Look at this morning's 500 millibar height anomalies in decameters from the United European model. Shows an even stronger lobe of the polar vortex from Hudson's Bay, Canada, all the way down to the eastern coast. And this is a 8 to 10 day mean in the model ensemble here, with the ridge axis now well off the east coast and a very deep trough axis in the eastern United States, all the way down with these heights down to 570 decameters now in standard meters below average here across the eastern United States. Again, the GFS model is now correcting itself a little bit, taking more of a trough axis, not as deep though, with a lobe of the polar vortex split into two centers here, with one sheared out and one back further towards the Hudson's Bay Canadian region, and then into the northeast. So it's not a deep trough. It's a trough, but the ensemble mean here, the 500 millibar height anomalies in decameters, not as deep. European CMC Canadian model showing more of the same kind of thing now. And so if you look at yesterday's run for the 8 to 10 day period, quite a bit of spread versus this morning's run. So, and this kind of thing has been going on back and forth from the 0Z and 12Z runs of the mean averages of the 500 millibar heights. The pattern is definitely one that is conducive towards the polar vortex dropping south and east, but how far south and east? The European might be a little bit overdone on its cold and potential snowstorms. Well, in this case, it wouldn't have much of a snowstorm here for the East Coast if this were to verify, but if you looked at last night's run, we'd find undercutting energy in the subtropical jet stream getting involved here. But by this morning's run, it clearly shows that that would be a suppression well to the south and east as we head into the new year. But I want to caution you that this has been flip-flopping back and forth over the last several days, and the models are not handling the stratospheric warming that's going on. Off the 12Z model runs of the GFS operational, the GFS ensemble, and the Canadian GEM ensemble. Notice the two things that are very striking here is that the GFS operational model places the Arctic oscillation in the tank here up through the 6th and then raises it rapidly into a positive state before falling rapidly again by the middle of the month. Meanwhile, the ensemble GFS keeps it tanked and remains tanked, but rising to near standard deviations above normal or near normal zero level by the middle of the month. And of course, the Canadian GEM model has the ensemble members still below average and then rising to near average as we get through the middle of the month of January. This discontinuity here on the GFS is not something that we have not seen before, and that's why we prefer to use the GFS ensembles in the forecast going forward as one of the forecasting model tools that we use.